Ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the line, and this is where I get really nervous because, Randy, have we been all pronouncing your last name wrong for years?
No, whatever you say is correct.
I've always had this thing about pronouncing everybody's names right because it's just a tick I have. And I read a thing that it's not Bachman.
Well, there's a difference between speaking in Canadian and speaking in American. You know, it's potato and potato and tomato, tomato. I grew up saying Bachman.
Really?
But when we were released in the States, the guy who signed us to Mercury Records was a German guy named Charlie Foch. And he said out in my bio, Bachman-Turner Overdrive, in parentheses, he put BOCK-MAN. So people would say Bachman, which is the old, like when I toured Germany, it's Bachman. It's Bachman. Like real heavy, solid things. So actually, Dick Clark, that's the first thing Dick Clark asked me when I was on American Bandstand. And I said, yes, I always say I'm Randy Bachman of Bachman-Turner Overdrive, and that settles it all.
Oh, that's awesome. It's such a great story. Again, it's one of those, it's like, oh man, I want to call him by the right name. And then I saw that, I'm like, oh, I got to ask. So, Randy, thank you so much for joining us. You guys are going to be playing and coming back to town tonight, Horizon Event Center. What's it like being a part of BTO nowadays?
It's quite amazing. I've lost some of my brothers. They passed away in the last couple of years. But it's nice to be part of the going forward movement. And I see a lot of bands are doing the same thing, like Lynyrd Skynyrd and Billy Gibbons and ZZ Top. They're just keeping the music going and celebrating the wonderful happy days that we all had in the 70s. I mean, there's just, we look back now, the 70s were such a great amalgamation of jazz and pop music, you know, and then heavy metal coming in and riffing song. I mean, that's why classic rock is still all over the world. It was probably the greatest music in the world made between 68 and 78. It'll live on forever. It became its own genre, just like blues. So I'm really happy to be doing it. And we're getting a lot of response from BTO fans saying, we're going to drive 300 miles. We're going to drive 600 miles. Will you be playing? And they list an album cut. So we're pulling out album cuts and playing stuff. You know, when you do an album as a band, you don't play the full album because you've got like 3 or 4 albums out. You leave out a song or two. Now we're going back and trying to play what the fans want to hear, that they're driving hundreds of miles to see, and they're standing up and giving us ovations the minute we start because they've been playing it in their car or in their heart and mind for years, and to actually see us there playing and singing. My son is in the band now, Tal, and he's had his own big hit called She's So High a couple of years ago. So we're a little bit modern having She's So High in the show, and I do the odd song from the guests too that I wrote, American Woman, and No Time. So we got a really incredible rock show that spans several decades of Canadian music.
Hey, Randy, when you guys go to plan a show like this, and you know, you will have all those requests and stuff, when it comes to the night of the show, how do you pick those songs? What is it? Hey, I just feel like doing this one tonight, or I feel like doing these. What's the process? And who has final say?
We did a great show last night, but we went overtime. We were so excited to play. The crowd was so great. We played a half an hour over, and lucky there was no curfew. So we played. We said, well, the set was too long. Let's drop this. Let's drop that. Let's drop She's Come Undone. Let's not do These Eyes, which are hits I wrote and had in the guest. I mean, they were multi-million sellers. They just didn't fit quite in a stand-up BTO rock set. They were fun to do. The fans loved it. So we trim it back. I have the final say because I'm the boss and the leader. So, but we do. Sometimes somebody will yell out of the audience, "Rock is my life. Welcome home." I'll say, "Okay, we don't know it as a band. I'll play you a verse and a chorus." And I just play a verse and a chorus. I lower the guitar, and sometimes the band kicks in, and everybody's happy.
That's always interesting when you make that side step on stage, like during the show. That's very cool that you guys would do that.
And I do some storytelling as well, because some of the songs were given to me by the God who gives away songs, the angel that sends you a song once in a while.
Yeah.
And I'm so amazed that when this happens to me, I tell the stories that time as well on stage, and the people love to hear the stories. So we really have a great time. It's a wonderful celebration of my life in rock and roll, because I quit school when I was about 20. I left college and went on the road in the rock and roll circus, and I'm still here.
Randy Bachman from Bachman-Turner Overdrive coming to town to the Horizon Event Center. Details at the bottom of the page. Is there a song or something that happens in the concerts nowadays that has to be there for you?
Pretty much 2 signature songs, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet and Taking Care of Business.
Okay. How do you feel about those? I know there's some people out there that'll be like, oh man, we play it all the time. I don't want to listen to it anymore. How do you feel about stuff like that?
Well, those are two of my greatest mistakes. I explained how I wrote those. They were all by accident.
Really?
They happened on stage. They happened in the studio. There was no planning. It was a bunch of happenstance. I started to write Taking Care of Business in 1967 in New York. It was called White Collar Worker. It took 6 years to go by, and it being refused to be on 3 Guess Who albums and 3 BQ albums before I finally changed the title to Taking Care of Business. And then boom, it came on the second BTO album. It became a worldwide party favorite and the top karaoke song for years when karaoke started. It's the big party song of BTO, So You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, which was another mistake that wasn't supposed to be on an album.
Really?
Yeah.
What was it? Just something you guys did on the side, or what's the story behind it?
Well, I produced the band, so I'd always have a song that we would jam on.
Okay.
So the song would have what I call a light verse with kind of jangling acoustic guitars, and then a heavy chorus where you kick in your fuzz pedal or you kick in an extra guitar and a real heavy chorus that everybody can sing along with. So your verses tell the story, and your choruses are just, they ram home, take it home or roll it on the highway over and over and over, stuff like that. And so that was just a song so I could record it, listen to the bass and the drum sound, go out and move the mics around with the engineer, listen to it play back. And so we would play it, more than a minute. I made up lyrics. And I stuttered to tease my brother who stuttered, and it wasn't supposed to be in the album. The guitar's not even in tune. I was just getting a tone on the drums and the bass.
Yeah.
And so I put that song aside. When the head of our label flew in to hear the album, which was the third BTO album, Not Fragile, he said, wow, Not Fragile is great. It's like a beginning of a heavy rock thing, and they might call it heavy metal or something. And we love Rolling Down the Highway, but I don't hear a really great single. And I said, well, that's it. That's the album. There's 4 songs on the side. That's what you had when you had vinyl rock on vinyl, classic rock on vinyl. And the engineer said, play him the throwaway song. And I said, you're kidding. He said, no, play it. So we played the song, which was We Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. And the guy jumped out of his chair. He said, that's amazing. Beautiful little jangly guitar intro. Your stuttering is like nothing I've ever heard, never on the radio. And then when you come in with your power chords, We Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, it's fantastic. It's top 40 radio all over the place. And I said, you're crazy. The guitar's not even in tune. I'm imitating my brother who stutters on a bad Van Morrison in the ending. He said, no, it's really fun. Rock and roll should be fun. Yip, 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 boom, boom, get a job, sha-na-na-na, sha-na-na-na. Rock and roll should be, fun once in a while, and not all Bob Dylan, Leonard Cohen lyrics. So this would be your fun song. So he put it on the album, and then it was a single. It went to number 1 in 22 countries. I couldn't believe it.
I was gonna say at the moment did he ever do that? I was right?
Yeah, he called me. Well, when he was doing that, he said, "Look, I picked Maggie May for Rod Stewart. It was an album cut. I put it on the flip side of Reason to Believe, which is the B-side, and I got a DJ to flip it over in Boston, and he played Maggie May and made Rod Stewart's life. I picked Hey Baby for Bruce Chanel. I picked something for Patty Page. I mean, this was an old A&R guy. I picked, I forget Patty Page, but he picked her song, and he made like 10 songs that he picked B-sides or album cuts that made people's lives. And he said to me, get to like this because you're going to be singing and playing it every single day of your life. Be careful what you put on an album because you cannot pick what the people like. You can't pick your fans. Your fans pick you. You can't say, I'm just going to do a record for 20-year-old girls or 30-year-old truck drivers. You just got to put it out and hope that somebody picks you, and then you keep giving them a little bit of what they want and a little bit more, and then you have a life. But get ready to play those songs for the rest of your life. And I'm so happy. I've got about 15 or 20 songs. I can play any one. Everybody knows it. I've been lucky enough to be in the Guess Who and BTO, have number 1 albums and singles with both bands, and to still be on the road today with my other contemporaries, like Robbie Robertson and Tom Petty and, Glenn Fry, not around anymore, gone. I'm just happy to be here rock and rolling.
Randy Bachman on the line with me right now. If you're going to give advice to songwriters out there, what's the sage advice from Randy?
Keep writing. You have no idea what song you write will be a hit. The people pick the hits. You don't. I mean, everything I write is a hit. Just that nobody agrees with me. I might get, one or two people to agree, but when you get a whole bunch of people to agree, that's when you have a hit. It's got to be basically radio. That's your keyhole to the world. If some guy likes it, a PD or a music director somewhere, and plays it, and the people phone in, they like it, or now you put it on YouTube and it gets a bunch of plays, that's how you have a hit. So just keep writing every day. There's no such thing as writer's block. Just write about anything and study the best. Buy the best of Eagles, buy the Beatles, by Billy Joel, one of the greatest songwriters in the world, writes in every style, does all the parts, and he writes lyrics and music. Get Elton John. I mean, get the classic rock best of if you want to write and copy those songs.
Randy Bachman, you guys are going to be in town for Bachman-Turner Overdrive tonight at the Horizon Events Center. Randy, I know you're a busy cat. Thank you so much for the time, man. I can't wait to see you tonight.
You're welcome. See you soon. Bye-bye.